This podcast is brought to you by Molten Balls, official ball of the UPSL.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back to the UPSL Podcast. Great to have you back with us. I'm Ardif Takari, and of course I'm joined by Dennis Pope.
Hey, what's up everybody?
And Dennis, a lot of action over the weekend. Mainly we're focusing on U.S. Open Cup qualifiers. And yesterday we were actually at the game at Orange County Great Park between LA Wolves of the UPSL and Buena Park FC of SoCal Premier League. I mean, what did you think of the game? I mean, going into it, did you think it was going to be a tough game?
Well, I had predicted right before the game that the Wolves were going to win 4-1. It's pretty close. Buena Park got pretty close to scoring a goal. I thought the Wolves played really well in their defensive shape, first and foremost. Whether or not Buena Park FC has the stuff to really attack a UPSL team, I think that's sort of the real question mark. But the Wolves played good out of the back. They transitioned well left to right. And I think that was where it started for the Wolves. Once they got possession in the back, I think everything else moving forward made it a lot easier for them.
You know, right from the start, I sensed a lot of positive energy coming from the LA Wolves. And in all honesty, I feel like it was tough to pick a man of the match. I mean, you had many good players doing everything very well. I mean, everything was working on all cylinders. It was an entertaining game to watch. There were times I thought maybe Buena Park could have maybe got themselves into the game, but, you know, I think a lot of times they were relying on mistakes from the Wolves in the midfield, and those probably would have been their best chances. But either way, I mean, the Wolves did make their adjustments and played a solid game, and their keeper was great too. He even saved a penalty in the second half. I mean, awesome performance from him.
Yeah, Caesar's a really good keeper. I think when you're talking about going through the middle, Sori Kita for the Wolves was phenomenal, and he is my man of the match. Everything stopped for Buena Park when it came to Sori.
You know, as we've been saying, Cesar Rivera put the Wolves in the lead, and after that, 2 goals from German Alfro. He had an excellent game, and we also caught up with him afterwards.
We came in hard, actually just comfortable. You know, we were like, we had one thing in mind, and that thing was to score and to just come out win. I mean, what we could take from here is just to stay calm, you know, and to just follow what our coach says, and everything will come out to be right, you know, if we just stick with our system.
And Wolves' new forward, Dmitry Zurlev, he put in a good shift. This is his first season with the Wolves. He's learning to play within the system. I think he could learn to impose himself a little more on the game. He seems to find gaps in between the defense. I think if he took charge a little more, made some better decisions with the ball, the Wolves, I think, would excel a little bit more in the attack.
I like what he brought to the team yesterday. I think there was a couple of times he might have been offside. I mean, they were always on the attack, not a surprise. I like what you're saying, and overall, though, I think he had a really good game, and he finished it off with a goal. He put the exclamation point on that victory to make it 4-0. A nice pass he received from substitute Rooney Moreno.
I really like his game. I'm not diminishing his game at any point. He's such a skilled player, he really is, that he could take over the game if he wanted to. The Wolves have so many talented players that they share the ball well, and he fits into the system well up top. But I think if they needed him to take charge, that Dimitri could. I think he's that type of player that could take over a game and potentially win something like a league MVP award.
He does bring a lot of experience to the LA Wolves. He is originally from Russia, and he's had his experience playing in Europe as well. We also caught up with Dimitri after the game. Let's listen in.
Well, I thought the team did really well from the first minute till the last. We were dominating possession, we were dominating chances, and in the end we came off with a 4-0 victory, which is important because it was a statement. You know, we didn't let the other team do anything practically, and we finished off most of our chances, and overall it was a dominating performance, which is important to keep the momentum off in the last parts of the regular season with the UPSL.
And for those fans of the LA Wolves Football Club, we all know that previously they were coached by former American international Eric Winalda. But now, President Jan Squara has stepped back in to the head coaching role. And Dennis, what does Jan Squara bring to the LA Wolves?
Commitment, first of all, and a lot of savvy. He's savvy in the business arena of soccer, and he's savvy in the coaching arena. He played in Germany. He's played it at a lot of different levels. He knows the game, understands players. I think he's the right man for the job. Anytime that he decides that he wants to take the job, he's the right man for the job. And the Wolves have continued their level of success. They haven't stepped down one peg at all. They haven't lost a game in league play. They haven't lost a game in U.S. Open Cup qualifying. They're undefeated this fall overall. And the Wolves haven't skipped a beat.
We caught up with Wolves president Jan Squara after the game. Let's hear what he had to say.
The guys definitely connected out there, and they stuck with their game plan, which is hold the ball, keep the ball, move it around, circulate it, and that was very positive. And we asked them to work hard as well. And I think between working hard for 90 minutes and circulating the ball and keeping the ball, all that happened tonight. And we could have scored more, and so we'll take the 4, and no goals against, so we're happy.
How do you think the last few weeks of UPSL play has led into this?
Definitely helped. I mean, these guys have been playing with each other for a few months now. You could see it. They know each other. There's that friendship, that passion with one another, that connecting, both on and off the field. So it reflects in the play. So it was a good win.
How do you think this one sets you up for the main draw?
The main draw is going to be much harder, and it's a good. We have a few months now to prepare for that. We've got almost 4 or 5 months, I believe. So we're going to look at what our options are. We can bring 5. We can add 5 to the roster. We can make some adjustments because we were a little bit skinny. I mean, we only had 1 sub tonight on the bench. So that just shows you how difficult it is as an amateur club to do well in this tournament with the roster limitations. So we did good, and I give credit to Daniel Collazo, our general manager. He's really helped put together a good squad, and it's all good.
In addition to the victory by the LA Wolves over Buena Park FC, there were 6 other UPSL teams in action for the last round of U.S. Open Cup qualifying. First, you had FC Denver defeating Indios Denver FC 2-0.
Yeah, that's a sad end for Indios. They were the last Colorado team from the UPSL still alive in U.S. Open Cup qualifying, and they couldn't manage a goal in their last game, so they're going to be upset about that, but that's going to motivate them for next year.
Then you had the Kendall Wanderers scoring a 2-1 victory over Mass United.
Mass United is one of the new teams in the UPSL Northeast. They were the only team still alive from the region. They're not going to be happy having lost 2-1 to Kendall Wanderers, but they'll be stronger for it next year.
Next, some success for the UPSL teams. Santa Ana wins FC with a 4-1 victory over the San Pedro Monsters.
Yeah, I heard the Santa Ana Winds have put together a really strong team this season. It'll be exciting to see how that transitions into the Open Cup proper next year and see how far they can go.
Next, Cal Victory FC. They were the runners-up for the 2017 UPSL Spring Championship. They were crushed 8-0 by El Farolito. I mean, is crushed maybe even an understatement?
8-0 is not a good-looking score. It makes you wonder how much that loss to LA Wolves in the Spring Championship affected their play this fall season. It's kind of a sad end to the calendar year for Cal Victory.
Next, La Máquina, a huge 2-1 victory over Chula Vista.
Yeah, the machine keeps rolling. That's 11 victories and 13 attempts in qualifying games for La Máquina. They just seem to do a phenomenal job. They really represent the UPSL well.
Last but not least, Sporting AZFC 6-1. Awesome victory over Galati FC.
It's been a massive week for Sporting AZFC. They won the game, of course, and they won it big, and then they've also announced that they're going to enter into the NPSL, and they're going to enter a women's team in the WUPSL. So big things are ahead for this club.
And remember, there will be 4 UPSL teams that will be participating in the 2018 U.S. Open Cup. And once again, those teams are the LA Wolves, Santa Ana Winds FC, La Máquina, and Sporting AZ FC. Good luck to all 4 teams. when the U.S. Open Cup continues in 2018. And when we come back, we'll take your questions on Twitter.
Do you want to advertise with the fastest growing pro development league in the country? Advertise with the UPSL. You'll reach more than 70 different soccer markets in more than 20 different states. For more information, go to upslsoccer.com or follow UPSL on Twitter at UPSL Soccer.
Okay, everybody, we are back now. We have one question from Jake Mercer. Let's see what he had to ask us. What would be the biggest item to address with the U.S. Open Cup? And in particular, is it attracting a national TV deal, more resources for amateur clubs? In all honesty, I think something worth pointing out here, and Jake Mercer brought up a very good question, Dennis, is that there needs to be more resources for amateur clubs playing in the U.S. Open Cup.
Without a doubt, it's a difficult task for any amateur club to achieve great success in this tournament. A lot of these owners have to dig out of pocket to make it happen. And at the end of the day, the longest surviving amateur club gets a whopping $15,000. That's, in perspective, that's the cost of a used car versus what these owners put in, to buy a luxury sedan every year. So they're not getting very much back for their investment. Specifically, the example that comes to mind the most is Moreno Valley FC. They were the USASA Region 4 champion in 2016. They advanced to the second round of the 2017 U.S. Open Cup, had to travel to play Oklahoma City Energy in that game. They ended up tying the game 1-1 at halftime, losing the game in the second half. I think the final score was 4-1. They come back home and they're no longer financially viable. They spent a ton of money to get to Oklahoma City. They spent a ton of money getting the players to Oklahoma City. And in the end, when it doesn't work out, things fall apart, sponsorships go south, and the club no longer exists on any feasible level. And that's what the UPSL is trying to avoid, is having teams overextend themselves to the point where they can't do both. They can't both play league games and the U.S. Open Cup. The UPSL is trying to find a way to make it happen for all teams.
That's a good point there, Dennis. And, the truth is, when you think of the U.S. Open Cup, we know about U.S. soccer. There are plenty of resources, and amateur clubs need to be taken care of. Like I said, this is the U.S. Open Cup. It is 2017. We're not talking about this tournament back like in the 1950s or 60s.
Yeah, there's a $150 million surplus at U.S. Soccer. Amateur soccer should be allotted a big chunk of that. That's the grassroots of the game. That's where the game is really growing, and that's where the money needs to go.
And everybody, that is it for this edition of the UPSL Podcast. Glad you could join us. It was great to be back, right, Dennis?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to be back, and we're going to do one more before the year is through, so look for that.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to this edition of the UPSL Podcast. For Dennis Pope, I'm Ardif Zakari.